man, over the past few months, and I've been hitting Martin Luther King Jr. pretty hard. I've written books about MLK, and well, not so much as books about him, but segments of my book about how he was just a despicable human being. One of the things I want to talk about today is just something else that I learned. And just when you didn't think that King could get any lower, I'm just reading like I do. I just do research. Ask certain questions, and you get certain answers. So I was just doing some research on MLK, and I asked about, his relationship with JFK and the Kennedys, right? Because I understand it was kind of weird. The March on Washington, y'all all saw the placards. We want jobs, we're men, we want this, we want that. And they all looked they were manufactured. The Kennedys have set up the March on Washington. They set the whole thing up. They raised the money. They organized it. They told them to be out of town by nightfall. Cool. JFK needed this march to get the get the Civil Rights Acts passed. And he wanted to sway public opinion because they needed these acts. And these acts were mostly Cold War acts to make sure that the world believed that democracy was not racist. The communists used that argument to get a lot of the third world nations, the nations in Africa and the nations in the Caribbean and the nations in Asia to become communists. They said, look at how those Americans treat those black people. They're terrible, da, 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 da. So, we needed to get this civil rights stuff passed to show the UN and show the world that America did not hate black people and Martin Luther King Jr. was their lackey to get it done. All right. So they worked on this, and I was just looking into the relationship between the Kennedys because I know the Kennedys had King's hotel rooms bugged because they didn't trust him. They found out he was a communist. They wanted to make sure that his communist influence didn't harm the president. So Bobby Kennedy, yes, Robert Kennedy, had Martin Luther King Jr.'s hotel rooms and house and the SELC bugged. J. Edgar Hoover brought it to Bobby. Bobby said, bugging. I want everything. I want every movie he makes. But King didn't know about this in 1963. So they did the March on Washington in the summer. I think it was like August. I don't want to be wrong about this, y'all, but I think it was about August of 1963. And in November of 1963, JFK was dead. Died November 22nd, 1963. Sure did. So it wasn't long after the March on Washington that JFK got assassinated. So it's kind of right together. March on Washington, JFK's assassination. King had gone to the White House. A lot of things had happened, but they were working together. I'm setting it up to let you know what MLK did and why this is so jacked up. So it was told that J. Edgar Hoover, had King's hotel rooms and things bugged, and that MLK was watching a rerun of Kennedy's funeral. And this is a very, very sad scene. It was sad. We all know. We've seen it. JFK assassination. We saw the funeral. We saw the ceremonies as he's coming down Pennsylvania Avenue. We saw his little son, JFK Jr., step out and do the salute to his father. Wasn't a dry eye in the house. You see Jackie with the veil over her face, and she has a little young daughter, about 5 or 6 years old, with her. And it's this scene in the Capitol Rotunda where they have all of the military people standing up and the dignitaries and everybody standing. And Jackie Kennedy grabs her daughter and walks over to the coffin of JFK. Whole world is watching. It's not a dry eye in the house. Everybody's kind of weeping and crying here. And she kneels down with her daughter and kisses JFK's coffin. Well, Martin Luther King Jr. is watching this rerun, and the FBI tapes catch him saying something despicable at this very, very sad time to show you King's character and how terrible of a human being he was. The tapes got MLK saying, there is Jackie sucking off JFK, sucking him off for the last time. Yeah. Sucking him off for the last time. That's how he saw that poignant moment. Y'all, I said all that to let you know that the monument they have of MLK up in D.C. is a joke. And they did this as a joke toward us to show us how much they disrespect the black community here in America. And it's just something else to let you know. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but it's just to let you know how much of a despicable human being he was. That, you know, he was a hoe chaser, he was a drunk, he had outside children, he's out there fighting and raising hell, and everybody, and they was mad because J. Edgar Hoover didn't like him. Well, how could J. Edgar Hoover like a man that would say something like that? And of course, they played it for Bobby Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy, and that's why Jackie Kennedy wrote that Martin Luther King Jr. was a horrible man, he was a despicable man. There she is, sucking him off for the last time. The First Lady kneeling down at the tomb of her, the coffin of her dead husband who's been assassinated in front of the world.
And as well, she also says this about Martin Luther King Jr. I just can't see a picture of Martin Luther King without thinking, you know, that man's terrible. That, too, will be connected with her now.
And the King part's even worse than just that quote. I mean, there's talk about what a phony King is, what a tricky person. She makes the accusation that when her husband was buried at Arlington Cemetery that King was being taped by the FBI, and Bobby Kennedy had heard the tape where they were making ugly jokes about the death of John F. Kennedy. So there's some parts to that King Jack versus Jackie Kennedy square off, if you like, that's going to be very cited in future books that deal with the 1960s. It's guaranteed.
Are you surprised at all about the release of this at this point, and that it would, you know, sort of be given a green light?
Somewhat. I was close to Arthur Schlesinger, the professor. He died a few years ago. Ted Sorensen, one of the other keepers of the flame, died. And I think Carolyn Kennedy thought it's the 50th anniversary right now of the Kennedy presidency, and this is sitting there. And it was time to let her mother have her say, and decided to come public with this. It's just a lot of the rawness of her feelings, I think, as a young woman she's only in her 30s when she's doing these tapes in 1964, is very different than the more poised and discreet Jackie Kennedy we got to know in the 1980s and 1990s.
Yeah, well, fascinating stuff. Douglas Brinkley, good to have you with us this morning to break some of it down. Thanks.
Thanks.
And that's what King had to say about it. Help, he got a holiday. And of course, no matter what I say about him, and no matter how bad the black community is behind all of his shenanigans, black people are going to support him. And as I said before, if that is your leader, you deserve everything you get. All right, friends, Vince Everett Ellison is here. I want you to go to my website, and on my website, you're going to see a lot of great stuff, man. You're going to see that we got t-shirts, we got caps, you got my books, my documentaries, you got all kinds of stuff on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Go there. We're dropping new t-shirts, we're dropping new merchandise. My new book, The End of Tolerance, is there. The End of Tolerance. Make sure you get it, make it #1. If you got my first 3, get The End of Tolerance. It's just as good, and it's telling us we have to end our tolerance with these leftists, these Democrats. We can no longer allow them to sexually groom our children. We can no longer allow them to castrate little boys and call them little girls, run God out of the public square, take away our guns, take away our sovereignty. No longer allow it. So go on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. That is VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Hit merchandise. You'll see the t-shirts. You'll see the caps. You'll see the books. You'll see the documentaries. You'll see it all. And let's keep this ball rolling. God bless you.